Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to take you on a journey, not into the past, but into the future that is being written right before our eyes. When nations make bold decisions, when alliances are reshaped, the world does not change slowly, it changes overnight. And what we are witnessing right now between Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, and their stance toward Israel is exactly that kind of turning point. Now think about this. Power is not just about weapons or money. It's about vision, courage, and timing. Sometimes a single warning, a single deal can shake the foundations of an entire region. And if you pay close attention today, you will see how this one moment, this shocking warning from Pakistan after its deal with Saudi Arabia has the potential to change the way we look at the Middle East, at Palestine, and even at the balance of global powers. I want you to listen carefully, not just with your ears, but with your mind and with your imagination, because the question we are exploring is bigger than politics. It's about whether nations can stand for their principles, whether unity can create strengths, and whether justice can finally find a place at the table of global diplomacy. By the end of this speech, you will not only understand what is happening, you will feel why it matters, and you will see what could be coming next. So stay with me until the very end, because the story we are about to uncover may be one of the most defining moments of our time. The Saudi-Pakistan partnership emerging from this new deal is not merely a bilateral agreement, but a strategic alignment that has the potential to reshape the balance of power in the Middle East. For decades, Saudi Arabia has relied heavily on Western powers, particularly the United States, for security assurances and economic partnerships. However, recent global shifts, coupled with evolving regional dynamics, have pushed Riyadh to diversify its alliances and seek greater autonomy in shaping its future. Pakistan, with its unique geopolitical position, strong military capabilities, and deep cultural and religious ties with the kingdom, becomes a natural and powerful partner in this recalibration. The essence of this partnership lies in its multidimensional nature. Economically, Saudi Arabia seeks stability and protection of its long-term investments, particularly as it works to transform its economy under Vision 2030. Pakistan provides both a strategic market and a gateway to South and Central Asia, linking Saudi interests with China's Belt and Road Initiative. This adds a layer of global significance, as economic corridors supported by Palestine hold the potential to connect Saudi resources with Asian markets more efficiently, bypassing traditional Western-dominated trade structures. On the security front, the partnership takes on even greater weight. Pakistan has one of the largest and most battle-hardened militaries in the Muslim world. Over the years, Pakistani military experts and personnel have supported Saudi defense needs. And this deal is seen as a renewal and strengthening of that commitment. At a time when Saudi Arabia faces complex regional threats, from Iran's growing influence to instability in Yemen, the alignment with Pakistan gives Riyadh a credible security partner capable of reinforcing its regional standing. Diplomatically, this partnership projects a powerful image to the wider Muslim world. Saudi Arabia, as the custodian of Islam's holiest sites, commands religious influence, while Pakistan, as a nuclear power, carries immense strategic weight. Together, the collaboration sends a clear message that the Muslim world can form its own power blocks, independent of external dictates. This is particularly important as global power competition intensifies, with Washington Beijing, and Moscow vying for influence in the Middle East. Ultimately, the Saudi-Pakistan deal is more than a contract. It is a signal of intent. It represents a willingness to create a new order in which Muslim-majority nations can lead in setting their own agendas, securing their own interests, and reshaping the geopolitical map of the region. Pakistan's position on the question of Palestine has remained one of the most consistent and uncompromising in the international arena. Since its inception in 1947, Pakistan has aligned itself with the aspirations of the Palestinian people and has firmly rejected recognition of Israel until a just and lasting solution is achieved. This unwavering stance is not only rooted in religious and cultural solidarity, but also reflects the principles on which Pakistan was founded: justice, self-determination, and resistance to oppression. For decades, Pakistan has stood alongside Arab nations in demanding the restoration of Palestinian rights, and this position continues to shape its foreign policy even today. The refusal to establish diplomatic ties with Israel is more than a symbolic gesture. It has practical implications in terms of military, economic, and diplomatic choices. Pakistani passports clearly state that they are valid for all countries of the world except Israel, a powerful message of solidarity with Palestinians. On global platforms such as the United Nations, Pakistan has consistently voted in favor of resolutions that uphold Palestinian sovereignty and condemn Israeli actions seen as violations of international law. This loyalty to the Palestinian cause has often come at a cost, limiting Pakistan's engagement in certain global markets and alliances, but the nation has treated it as a moral obligation rather than a negotiable policy. This historical stance is also closely tied to Pakistan's identity as a leader in the Muslim world. The country has long positioned itself as a voice for oppressed Muslim communities, and Palestine remains at the heart of this commitment. By refusing to follow the path taken by some Arab nations that have normalized relations with Israel, Pakistan has set itself apart as a nation unwilling to compromise on its principles for short-term gain. This has earned it respect among populations across the Muslim world, even when governments may not always share the same position. At the same time, Palestine's alignment with Palestine has strategic consequences in the evolving regional order. It reinforces its bond with countries like Turkey, Iran, and now even a repositioning Saudi Arabia, which has had to balance its pragmatic interest with the expectations of its people. As discussions around normalization with Israel continue to divide the region, Pakistan's consistent voice ensures that the Palestinian issue does not fade from global consciousness, but rather remains central to debates on justice, security, and legitimacy in the Middle East. Israel's regional strategy in recent years has revolved around building alliances with Arab states, primarily through normalization agreements like the Abraham Accord. These agreements have provided Israel with a level of legitimacy and economic opportunity that was once unthinkable in the Middle East. By establishing diplomatic and trade relations with countries such as the UAE, Bahrain, and Morocco, Israel aimed to weaken the collective Arab position on Palestine and sideline the issue from regional politics. However, the Saudi-Pakistan alignment introduces a major challenge to this carefully crafted strategy. Unlike smaller Arab states, Saudi Arabia is the spiritual and political heavyweight of the Muslim world, and Pakistan brings unmatched military and strategic credibility. Their collaboration directly undermines Israel's expectation of gradually integrating into the region without addressing the Palestinian cause. For Israel, the greatest risk lies in the narrative shift. If Saudi Arabia, under pressure from its domestic population and now bolstered by a strong partnership with Pakistan, takes a harder stance on Palestinian rights, it disrupts the momentum Israel has enjoyed through normalization. Pakistan's refusal to recognize Israel and its ability to amplify the Palestinian voice on global platforms adds another layer of pressure. In practical terms, this could make it harder for Israel to secure further recognition from other Muslim-majority nations, as many will look toward Riyadh's decisions before taking their own steps. From a security perspective, the prospect of a Saudi-Pakistan axis raises concerns for Israel's defense establishment. Pakistan's advanced military, coupled with Saudi financial resources, could give rise to a bloc capable of counterbalancing Israeli influence in the region. This does not necessarily mean direct military confrontation, but it does signal a credible deterrent that Israel must factor into its strategic calculation. The psychological impact alone could embolden Palestinian groups and shift the regional balance of confidence. Moreover, Israel has long counted on divisions within the Muslim world to advance its goals. The Saudi-Pakistan partnership signals the possibility of greater unity on issues related to Palestine. If Riyadh, influenced by its people and supported by Pakistan, resists normalization, Israel could find itself isolated despite its economic and technological strength. What Israel faces now is not simply a political challenge, but a potential shift in the regional order that threatens to undo the quiet gains of recent years and forces it to confront the very issue it has sought to push aside, the Palestinian question. The involvement of global superpowers in the unfolding Saudi-Pakistan dynamic is one of the most critical aspects of the changing Middle Eastern landscape. Whenever two influential Muslim nations align closely, the ripple effects are felt far beyond the region, especially by the United States, China, and Russia, each of which has deep interests in the Middle East. The Saudi-Pakistan deal is not only about bilateral cooperation, but also about shifting the global balance of power, particularly when it comes to energy security, trade routes, and military influence. For the United States, Saudi Arabia has historically been a cornerstone of its Middle East policy, providing stability in energy markets and serving as a counterweight to Iran. Washington has also sought to expand the Abraham Accords and bring Riyadh into normalization with Israel, something it considers vital for its long-term strategy in the region. However, the growing Saudi closeness with Pakistan, especially if it strengthens ties with China as a result, complicates U.S. objectives. Pakistan already has a strong relationship with Beijing, anchored in projects like the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. If Saudi Arabia leans into this axis, it could reduce American leverage while increasing China's influence in one of the world's most sensitive regions. For China, this development presents an opportunity. Beijing is hungry for secure energy routes and reliable allies that can ensure the smooth flow of oil and gas needed for its economic machine. Pakistan serves as China's trusted partner, and Saudi Arabia is its largest oil supplier. A deepening Saudi-Pakistan partnership provides China with a natural bridge to consolidate its Belt and Road ambitions while countering U.S. dominance. Beijing can position itself as a mediator in regional conflict, portraying its role as stabilizing while expanding its geopolitical footprint. Russia, too, sees value in these shifts. Although less economically powerful, Moscow has carved out influence through its role in Syria and its growing defense and energy ties with both Riyadh and Islamabad. A stronger Saudi-Pakistan axis potentially opens new avenues for Russia to balance against Western dominance, offering arms deals, energy cooperation, and diplomatic backing. Ultimately, the Saudi-Pakistan deal cannot be analyzed in isolation from these global currents. It is part of a wider context where great powers seek to secure their own interests through partnerships, investments, and alignments. The Middle East, long a battleground of external influence, is once again at the center of a power struggle, where the moves of Riyadh and Islamabad could shift the strategic calculations of Washington, Beijing, and Moscow alike. Pakistan's military strength has always been central to its role in the Muslim world. And when paired with Saudi Arabia's financial influence and political reach, it creates a formidable combination that cannot be ignored. Pakistan possesses one of the largest and most capable armies among Muslim majority nations, with decades of battlefield experience, advanced training, and a nuclear capability that adds a layer of deterrence. Over the years, Pakistani officers and troops have frequently supported Saudi Arabia in defense roles, from protecting sensitive sites to advising on military strategy. This history of cooperation provides the foundation for a partnership that in the current context takes on new weight, especially as Pakistan issues warnings directed toward Israel. For Israel, Pakistan's involvement in Middle Eastern affairs has always been a potential concern, given the size and professionalism of its armed forces. Unlike smaller states that Israel has normalized relations with, Pakistan brings not only rhetoric, but also credible military power to the table. Its nuclear status places it in a unique category within the Muslim world. And while Islamabad has never threatened its capabilities directly, the symbolism of such power makes its stance far more influential. When coupled with Saudi Arabia's financial muscle, this presents the possibility of a security architecture that could rival or counterbalance Israel's military edge in the region. The credibility of Pakistan's warning lies in its ability to back words with action. This does not necessarily mean direct confrontation, but rather the capacity to mobilize alliances, provide military assistance, and shape the strategic calculations of adversaries. In the Middle East, where perception often carries as much weight as actual force, the knowledge that Pakistan could shift the balance if required changes the dynamics significantly. Palestinian groups and populations sympathetic to their cause would draw confidence from such backing, while Israel would have to reconsider its assumption that Muslim nations lack the unity or resources to challenge its dominance. Furthermore, Pakistan's role is not limited to hard power alone. Its defense industry, intelligence expertise, and global peacekeeping experience give it tools that extend beyond the battlefield. For Saudi Arabia, aligning with Pakistan strengthens its ability to deter threats from regional rivals and project influence across the Muslim world. Together, they send a message that security in the region is no longer solely reliant on Western powers, but can increasingly be shaped by Muslim nations themselves, redefining the strategic balance and adding weight to Pakistan's warning. The question of whether the Saudi-Pakistan alignment will lead to diplomacy or escalation sits at the heart of the debate about the region's future. On one hand, there is a clear opportunity for this partnership to channel its influence into diplomatic efforts, pressing Israel and its allies to revisit the Palestinian issue in a more serious way. Saudi Arabia carries unmatched weight as the custodian of Islam's holiest sites, and Pakistan adds military credibility and moral legitimacy by consistently standing for Palestinian rights. If these two powers use their combined voice to push for negotiations and greater international accountability, it could revive momentum for a solution that has long been stalled. Diplomacy in this case would not only address Palestinian grievances, but also help stabilize a region where tensions repeatedly spill into violence. However, history shows that the Middle East rarely evolves through diplomacy alone. Escalation is always a possibility, particularly when stakeholders perceive their security or legitimacy as threatened. Israel has worked hard to normalize relations with several Arab states, and any reversal of that trend, particularly if Saudi Arabia resists normalization under pressure from its own people and the influence of Pakistan, could be seen as a setback for its regional strategy. This could lead to increased hostility, sharper rhetoric, and possibly proxy confrontations. In such a scenario, the Palestinian issue could once again become a flashpoint that ignites wider conflicts, with outside powers also drawn in. The role of global superpowers adds another layer of uncertainty. The United States, China, and Russia will each attempt to steer outcomes in ways that favor their interests. Their involvement could either provide diplomatic pressure to manage tensions or fuel rivalries that push the region closer to escalation. The direction largely depends on whether Riyadh and Islamabad choose to leverage their partnership for peace building or for building a new power bloc capable of confronting Israel more directly. What makes this moment significant is that the balance is finally poised. For the first time in years, the Palestinian issue is being placed back at the center of regional discussions, not as a secondary concern, but as a potential defining factor of alliances and strategies. The choices made by Saudi Arabia and Pakistan in the coming months will determine whether the Middle East edges toward constructive dialogue or whether old divisions harden into new fronts of confrontation. In conclusion, the Saudi-Pakistan partnership and Pakistan's firm warning to Israel mark the beginning of a new chapter in Middle Eastern geopolitics. This is not merely about bilateral deals or regional rivalry. It is about reshaping the balance of power, recentering the Palestinian cause, and reminding the world that nations with conviction, unity, and strength can redefine the course of history. The choices made today will determine whether the region embraces diplomacy, fairness, and justice, or slides further into confrontation and instability. What remains clear is that Pakistan and Saudi Arabia together have signaled that the Muslim world is no longer willing to remain a silent spectator while its core issues are ignored. The coming months will reveal whether this warning translates into dialogue or division, but either way, the global order cannot dismiss its significance. I wish you all the very best as you reflect on these developments, and may this moment inspire you to stay informed, engaged, and hopeful for a future built on justice and peace. Thank you for your time and attention.